Okay, so by now you should have already done step number 2, which is stay stitch side, top and the bottom. These are instructions for number 3. Sewing right sides together, the 2 front and back pieces, 2 of these, and you're going to sew them to side. Okay. I think the easiest way is to mark the halfway point, so I'm going to do that for you right now. Do you have scissors? Oh, I have some right here. Okay. That's weird. The lighting's kind of funny. Try to get it. Hopefully that'll work. Okay. So I'm folding this in half. Just putting a clip inside the seam allowance, so my clip is like less than 1/2 inch. I'm going to do that on this one too. Okay. And then our side, I'm also just going to clip it halfway. Inside the seam allowance as well. Okay. You have your pattern to make sure you're actually cutting the side and the strap. Sometimes people accidentally grab the flap. Okay, so we sew right sides together. I'm going to line up those halfway points that I just clipped here. Okay. Okay. Then I'm trusting the pattern maker did her job, so I'm actually going to line up the side to the top, and I'm going to pin it. Sewing the straight is easy, so I'm just going to line it up, the straight part, and then when we're at the curve, that's our troublemaker. Right sides together, right edges even. Okay. Same here. Straight for a little bit. Cool, so that's easy. Here's the troublemaker. So our stitch line is the same length on this side, and it's the same length on front and back. Why is this guy bending? Did I do something wrong? So this guy's laying flat. Okay, so our stitch length is the same length. What's not the same length is the raw edge. The raw edge on the rectangle is the same length as the stitch line, but the raw edge on the curved circle is going to be longer than the stitch line. So this raw edge is longer, which is why this raw edge doesn't fit. Where you sew, those should be the same length, but it's just this raw edge that's not. So it's good you have your clips in it, and when you clip it, it's supposed to spread. I might put a clip down here, maybe that would help a little bit. Maybe a little longer one for right there. And then we really just want to make sure our sew line is lined up. And then our clips kind of spread open, so that makes the raw edge on the rectangle pattern piece, the side, it makes the raw edge longer than it originally was, so it can kind of line up to the other pattern, the front and back. It's the hardest step of the whole bag, I think. Okay. We just don't want any puckers. So I'm just feeling with my fingers that both layers are flat. Your fabric's a little thick, so it is a little bit more intermediate to work with, but it's okay. So here's like a potential pucker. If I sew it when it's folded, you'll get a pucker. So I kind of just try to push the fullness towards me, just so that it's flat just for the stitch line. You know, and if I wanted, I can put in an extra pin if I'm like worried about it. But I got this one to fit, which means you should be able to get this one to fit because they're exactly the same length since I did it in half. And then when you're at this sewing machine, You're gonna sew, sew, sew. And like if you ever see, I think we're good. You can just sew all the way. But if there was a fold, you just stop sewing, you lift up the presser foot and you move the fullness out of the way, put your presser foot back down and keep sewing. But do you wanna try it? See if you can